Is
Hey, it's 7 o'clock, folks, on the family station Love 101. It's time for the morning watch. Brought to you today by Home and Things. Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore.
Imagine styles of tiles for every room. So trendy, sophisticated, stunning, yet cool. Simply unique. Tiles for floors to walls and everything in between. Make your best home anything but ordinary at Home and Things.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live in the main watch. Is the UIC reshaping the profile of third parties? And in the second watch, gatherings at church services now increased to 50. For our Facebook question, we ask, what are your thoughts about Jamaica's newest registered political party, the UIC? Share your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on in the program, but first, yes, I quote.
This one is, I quote, "A ship in harbor is safe, but that is not what ships are for," John Hishad.
Indeed, Shivani. That one is self-evident. The ship was built to go out into the waters, sir. Yes. How are you doing, Shivani?
I'm good, and how are you, Stokely?
I am well, my friend. I am well. The main watch. We'll be back after this break.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness is advising pregnant and breastfeeding mothers to get vaccinated against COVID-19. This is in line with recommendations from the World Health Organization and having regard to evidence which suggests that pregnant women with COVID-19 are at higher risk of developing severe illness compared with non-pregnant women of reproductive age. COVID-19 in pregnancy has also been associated with an increased risk of preterm birth and of newborns requiring neonatal intensive care. Pregnant women who are 35 years and older or have high body mass index or an existing comorbidity such as diabetes or hypertension are at particular risk of serious outcomes from COVID-19. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
49 years later and still going strong, Under the Law helps you to know your rights and how the laws of Jamaica can help you defend those rights. The program is brought to you on Wednesdays by the Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy. Under the Law, Wednesdays at 6:20 a.m., 2:35, 6:45, and 9:10 p.m. on Love 101 FM.
DIGICEL. First in a class when you have Digicel. School as prime bundle. That's right, with your educational website, make you bright. Head to the top of your class with your first Digicel SIM and a School as Prime bundle. Get over 142 gigabytes of data so you can have access to educational sites, social media platforms, Digicel apps, and more for as low as $1,500 for 28 days. Get the School as Prime bundle with your first Digicel SIM card. Visit the Digicel store today. DIGICEL.
From generation to generation, Jamaicans have depended on J&B Bank to make the pride and joy of providing a safe place for their families possible. Now, with no processing fees and no down payment mortgage options, you can open the door to your own sweet home, a legacy to hand to your next generation. Visit jnbank.com to get pre-approved today. J&B Bank will help you find a way.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are now in the main watch. And recently, there has been much attention on the United Independent Congress. They are Jamaica's newest registered political party. And some would say they fall in the category of what are termed often in Jamaica and in other places as third parties. Now, we are going to be having a discussion today in relation to the topic. Has the UIC changed? How have they changed the profile, or are they reshaping rather the profile of third parties? Many persons would be well aware of the recent featuring of the UIC in the media. And of course, among them this month was September 22nd, where there was, depending on how it's framed or how you look at it, some will describe it in different ways, but suffice it to say, it is factual that members of the party had been arrested, to include its president, Mr. Joseph Patterson, in relation to a number of breaches, and more anon on that. But the focus isn't so much on September 22nd. The focus is really, has the UIC, in a nutshell, are they reshaping the profile of third parties in Jamaica? We have online to discuss this with us today, Miss Nadine Spence, social and political commentator. Always a pleasure having you, Miss Nadine Spence. And we also have online Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang, another social and political commentator, and both of them we're happy to have, and none of them are strangers to the Morning Watch. Good morning, Mr. O'Brien Chang, and good morning, Ms. Spence. How are you both?
Morning, everyone.
I'm good, thank you.
Great. Wonderful having you both. First of all, just to educate the listeners a little bit, sir and madam, we don't want to assume anything. Mr. Brian Chang, perhaps starting with you, sir, would you like to remind the listeners or advise the listeners as to, or tell the listeners as to what is a third party? What do we typically describe as a third party?
Well, a third party, other countries have them. Britain has liberals. Canada has the New Democrats. You're supposed to be a party. As I say, many countries it's a norm where you don't have just two parties. There's no law or no rule book saying in democracy you only have two main parties. The US has no two main parties. We watch a lot of US TV, but the US is not the only country in the world. So many other countries have numerous parties that people vote for. Look at Germany, vote 4 or 5 parties. So we in Jamaica used to only having 2 main parties with members of parliament. And in the end, a party, an effective political party, has members of parliament. If you don't have members of parliament, you're not really a party. And the trouble are not really a serious political party that can do anything, change legislature, vote when they have votes in parliament. And so sadly in Jamaica, since independence, I believe we've never had any other MP but a JLP or a PNP. And many of us feel that yes, it would be great to get a member of parliament who is not connected to the orange or the green. But sadly, this has not happened. And the NDM was the closest one I've seen since I've been in Jamaica in the 1997, I believe, under Bruce Golding, where they got maybe 5% of the vote. Since then, and before that, not even 1% has any third party gotten. This UIC, I don't see them running candidates, so I don't consider them a third party. What I consider them is an attention-getting body, especially the president. His main goal seems to be get attention. The police told him, do not march, without a permit, you will be arrested. He didn't even apply for a permit. He decided to march to get arrested, to get attention. To me, that was his only goal.
Understood. Nadine Spence, any comments?
Yeah, well, I think one of the realities of third parties in Jamaica is that it is extremely difficult for them to break into the mainstream. I think NDM has come the closest in respect of how it organized itself. This UIC, I'm not quite sure if it is a political party. I'm not sure of its following because a political party is arranged around a political philosophy or ideology, and it articulates what its position is. The UIC seems more to be a political party that has arisen out of opposition to the Jamaican state and not necessarily the political parties, the state. It is very critical, and I would say it has no respect for the state apparatus that is Jamaica. So its approach to even the police, and as Kevin said, the police issuing a warning that you need to get permission to march, and its decision to ignore that shows its lack of regard for anything that is Jamaican. So it kind of has this idea that whatever was here before it is rubbish, and its intention is to bring about a better state, a better Jamaica, mostly through um, Christian values and ethics, I think. So I don't see it organizing itself as a party around an ideology, inviting people to be a part of it, and sharing a vision of Jamaica that is understandable, that people can buy into, and explaining how it will go about arranging itself as government. It seems more to be focused on saying what it wants to be based on what is here now. So it is more focused on opposing the two political parties, opposing what exists of the Jamaican state, and then just being a more of a group of people who are dissatisfied with the way things are than a political party.
Interesting you said some of the things you did, Miss Spence, because well, they are a registered political party. That is factual. In terms of um, the Christian connection, I'm not sure about that per se. I took a look at what they call their manifesto, and I saw some things in there that would offend large parts of the Christian church in Jamaica. But I leave that for now. That's not the focus of the conversation. Over time, I noticed that Jamaica has had a couple of third parties. Earlier in our democratic history, there was the Jamaica Democratic Party, and I understand that they had candidates that they fielded for the 1944 general election. Then there was the Farmers Party, which played a role, I believe, in the 1950s. They got no candidates in the legislature. Mr. Brian Chang was very interesting. Mr. Brian Chang, you noted that it has either been the JLP or the PNP. And as time has gone by, we have had others, the Marcus Garvey's People's Political Party, and of course, the National Democratic Movement. Now, I'm looking here at an article by Anastasia Cunningham, senior Gleaner writer, and it's dated November 14th, 2011. And the headline is Credibility Problem Hinders Third Parties. And the late Troy Kane, well-known political historian, was quoted in this article. And the point was really made that they seem to have a credibility problem. Mr. O'Brien Chang, we're almost upon a break, but we'll start before we head to the break and continue after, sir, if you will. Is there a credibility problem with the third parties, why they often don't seem to gain traction, sir?
Yes, obviously. For some reason, Jamaicans are seemingly averse to considering seriously either anybody who's not JLP or PNP. The NDM had a chance. They had one of the problems with the credibility is you need a leader that people know. The trouble, Jamaica is very, personality centered. So you need somebody who's prominent, that people recognize the name and pay attention to them. And most of the leaders of the third parties have been people that nobody knows and never stay around long enough to get credibility or put forward.
Hold that thought, Mr. Chang, because it's such an interesting point. But we are upon a break, and we do need to pay some bills, sir and madam. So hold on for us. Listeners, we'll be right back on the Morning Watch. Stay with us.
Term motor insurance from JNGI. Short. You choose what you need. 30, 60, 90 days policy. No long commitment. Full third party. Don't park your car. Don't walk. Get a shotty. So affordable and it's not per nation market. JNGI shotty. Country party. We have a shotty. Just insure your vehicle and start it. Roll out with a shotty. Shotty. The short-term motor insurance from JN General Insurance. Available only online.
Forget ordinary. Now go compromise, oh nah, no way. I feel secure the best for my family. Me and my family, we go yummy. Go yummy. Go, best in value, best in place. Me and my family, we go yummy. Forget ordinary, go yummy.
See it, want it, get it with a summer loan from Chris and Charles. Borrow up to $3 million. Get low interest rates and fast approval. Call 876-920-4189 for details or apply online at www.chrisandcharles.com. Conditions apply. When you think loans, think Chris and Charles.
Protect yourself. Read your financial contracts before you sign. Remember, you are best suited to protect your interests. You must read the contract. And if you have any questions about any financial service, ask your financial institution's representative before you take on the service. Always ask about the fees and the interest payable on any financial product. Read everything before you sign. This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
Have some issues and concerns in your community that you wish could be attended to now? Want a platform to voice those concerns? This could be the place for you. Send your 30-second voice notes describing your issue to 876-997-3125. That's 876-997-3125. Be sure to type a voice for hope before sending the voice note. Then listen on Tuesday at 9:45 a.m. for a voice for hope. Share the concerns you have seen. You know that street light that has not been working for a long time, or your community has not had water for 2 weeks now? Yes, here is somewhere you can share it. And maybe, just maybe, we can get some love on your situation. Remember now, send a 30-second voice note describing your issue and type a voice for hope before sending your voice note to 876-997-3125. A voice for hope. It's a problem, and we need a solution now. Love 101 FM, the family station, bringing a voice to your situation.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are in the main watch continuing, and we're looking at the topic, is the UIC reshaping the profile of third parties? And our guests in this segment, Nadine Spence, social political commentator, and Kevin O'Brien Chang, social political commentator as well. Mr. O'Brien Chang, just before the break, you made a very interesting point in relation to how political parties and how the relevant party gains traction. A lot of it is centered around the leader. And if I'm putting words in your mouth, please tell me, sir, but I think you really mean the personality of the leader. It's very leadership centered. Would you like to develop on that point, Mr. Chang, Mr. Brian Chang?
Well, you first thing you need is name recognition. That's the first thing. People have to, the name is there, people recognize it. The reality of Jamaica, is most people are not really paying much attention to politics. People are busy working. You're working a job, you have your family. So the amount of time people can develop the politics is very limited. And so they don't follow things very, very closely. So if they say a name, a third party, the name they don't recognize, most people, it doesn't even register in their brain. And that's why they do the NDM. When NDM first came out, for people that don't remember, Golding, it was the JLP was having severe problems, similar to the PNP nowadays or worse. Mr. Siago was unpopular. And the people wanted him to go. He refused to go. And Mr. Golding and the so-called Gang of Four or whatever, they opposed him. And then eventually Mr. Golding and a new papa said, no, we're starting a new party. This we don't agree with what the JLP is saying. Nowadays, the leader is unpopular. And when the polls first came out, the NDM was right up there with the PNP and JLP, just 20% each. At one time, the poll showed the NDM the most popular party. But because Mr. Golding was well known, the great failing of the NDM is they failed to tell the people what they really stood for. They talked a lot about presidential system, but details were never there. And I myself kept asking, what do they stand for? What do you stand for? Now, the UIC, this connect to this third party, their manifesto is very sketchy. And even in their protests, the only thing we can know they are saying is no vaccine. That's all they're chanting, no vaccine. Is that enough to bring Jamaica forward? What was their policies on crime? The big issue, where I think most people would like a third party, is that both the PNP and the JLP ignore the issue of crime. We have the highest murder rate in the world. And nearly every poll shows crime to be the biggest concern of the people. COVID came along, yes, and for a while COVID was there, but it kind of quieted down. Where people are still dying, but people see COVID as a temporary situation. The murder rate has been high for years, 20, 30 years now. But neither party will seriously address crime or the Garrison issue. So where's the UIC on the issue that bothers people the most? Do they have a crime policy? I haven't seen one. So that is where I would say if they were a serious party, we would be hearing about the biggest issue. If you're going to be a successful third party, let me quickly finish. You have to address the issues the people want addressed, not what you want addressed. Is vaccination the biggest issue Jamaicans are concerned about? No.
Interesting. Sorry, finish your point, Mr. O'Brien, John.
No, I said, okay, I'm finished. Giving Nadine a chance.
I thought you were still saying something. Miss Spence, Nadine Spence, any comments on that? Yes. Oh, I thought we lost you. Yes, you're there. Any comments on what Mr. O'Brien Chang just said?
I guess the issue was what the legitimacy of third parties and
the profile of the leader being very important in terms of galvanizing support. And he and of course, Mr. Brian Chang, you were pointing out the challenges the NDM had. They didn't really clarify or state clearly. Go ahead, Ms. Spence.
Yeah, I understand that. I think, remember as well that our political system does not necessarily accommodate third parties very well. We have space for opposition and we also have space for government. So, already a third party or coming into the system has to contend with a system that is built around it's a two-party system. That's one. But I also agree with Kubin that a third party then coming in has to arrange itself so that it would want to perhaps unseat the popular party. This party, I don't think it is going to last that long. I don't think the political leader has the kind of knowledge of Jamaican culture. I don't know that he appreciates what is here, that the society has evolved and is a society. I think he thinks he's coming with a better way of life. And I think if you listen to I've listened to his interviews, I've even interviewed the leader. And I just get a sense that he's very naive and doesn't have a true assessment of the Jamaican state and what is here. And he has even disdain for, when we talk about the state, he doesn't see the difference between the state and the political parties. And that's very important to me, because in a
Interesting.
society, in a polity, you have to understand that we have a state that is there, that is fixed, and that is doing very well, given that we have only gone, 59 years, that we have a democracy that is intact, and that even though people might be dissatisfied with the political parties, they know that their way of demonstrating dissatisfaction is either voting or not voting. Doesn't mean that the state is falling apart. And I agree with Kevin. When you watched the demonstration, clearly they never articulated to people what they were demonstrating about. I also heard them saying all 63 members of parliament should resign. They're asking for the resignation of the 63 members of parliament. Just some really very idealistic and almost unrealistic asks. People were just angry. And you can ride on that anger, because at this moment, people are not trusting the government and people feel angry. It doesn't mean that these people are supporting the UIC, however. It was just a moment to kind of suck it.
Interesting you said that, yes.
So
Very
I don't
interesting point you made there.
I don't see them as a viable party. A
Okay.
viable party is doing much more than seeking attention in the ways that they're seeking attention in the press. It's a lot of organizing to field 63 candidates, to get people in constituencies across Jamaica to trust you, to go
Okay.
and get to know the people. They're not doing that kind of work. Political work is not work on TV, it's work on the ground. And they're not doing
I
that
see.
work. So I don't see them as a party that is taking this thing seriously.
Very interesting. So, Nadine Spence, even though the Constitution of Jamaica does not provide explicitly, I would say, for political parties, you think that the way the Constitution is framed in terms of an opposition leader and the leader of the government, that it implicitly makes it easier for there to be these two main political parties, and third parties have a harder time getting a foot in? Is that what you're saying, Miss Spence?
Right. You remember Kevin mentioned something about the NDM asking for political reform. They wanted to change the political system, move it from a two-party representational system to a proportional representation system.
Yes.
Our system, if you're a third party, you're fighting, you're the underdog. The way the system is structured, it makes it almost impossible for you to break in. And so
I
the
see.
reason why the NDM has asked for a proportional representation system was because it knew it couldn't survive under a two-party system. A proportional representation as a political system is much more accommodating of third, fourth, fifth parties. Just that
I
our
see.
political system is built on a model which is more accommodating of a two-party system, even the way parliament is set up. And if you remember the other day when the gentleman became an independent party,
Even with the
and
way the chairs are arranged,
even
even the
where he
seating.
where he would sit
Yes,
became an
yes,
issue.
yes,
So
yes, yes.
part of this transformation of our political system to accommodate third parties and other parties would be to change the political system to a proportional representation system, which
Yeah.
is much more accommodating of other parties and other voices, even if they're not as organized as the two main parties. Because over time, globally, what we're realizing is that there was a particular time when it was easier to form political parties that gained traction among the full population. It's more difficult now. What we see are niche parties emerging. So in countries where there are proportional representational system, we see a party that is focused, a green party. We see just parties that are niche parties that get an agenda into the main political party, and that a party might need to draw on to because they don't have enough votes and so on, depending on how the parliament, the structure is arranged. So, I mean, there are different things that the system is against a third party, but I don't think it is this third party that is going to challenge the system in such a way that we consider a change to a proportional representational system.
Based on the comments both of you have made, you're really indicating that this particular party, the UIC, clearly is not reshaping, when certainly not at this time anyway. You're both seeming to agree on that. We are totally out of time, and I wish we had more time for comments. But Ms. Spence, you made an interesting point towards the end about proportional representation that might open up another conversation. We may invite both of you back to discuss that in the future, depending, because it sounds like a very interesting topic to look at. I want to thank both Miss Nadine Spence and of course, Mr. Kevin O'Brien Chang for being guests with us in this segment. Wish we had more time, but we are totally out of time. Listeners, will be right back on the Morning Watch. Please stay with us.
Now with no processing fees and no down payment, it's time to open the door to your own sweet home. The time by JN Bank is
7:31.
If you got the first dose of the AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccine recently, you may now be due your second dose. Please check your vaccination card and make your appointment for your second dose. Remember, you are not fully vaccinated until you have received the 2 doses. Visit moh.gov.jm or call 888-1-LOVE to make your appointment today. Let's get vaccinated and get back to life. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
Don't miss this opportunity to earn international and local certificates in just 1 month at Distinction College. Register now and start our Super Easter program from March 20 to April 24. Get qualified in geriatric and pediatric nursing, phlebotomy, housekeeping and call center, customer service, business admin, receptionist, supervisory management, cashiering, childcare, and nail technology. No subjects required, no age limit, no entrance test. Register this week and get 10 to 25% discounts on all courses. Call 876-356-4167 or 876-354-8560. Visit us in Kingston, Spanish Town, Ojarios, or St. Elizabeth.
Digicel Plus LTE home service brings super fast internet to more people in more places. That's simply more speed for your entire family to stream, download, and stay connected in real time. Enjoy better coverage, reliable speeds, and more value. To find out if super fast Digicel Plus LTE home is in your area, call 888-935-5050 or 145 from a Digicel number, or look out for a Digicel Plus agent in your community. Digicel Plus, Jamaica's fastest internet provider.
Here's a vaccination message from the family station. Possible side effects from the COVID-19 vaccines throughout the body include tiredness, headache, muscle pain, chills, fever, and nausea. Side effects on the injected arm include pain, redness, and swelling. My name is Daniel Downs from Love 101, encouraging you to get vaccinated. Let's get vaccinated and get back to life.
Welcome back to Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. Let's take a look at the newspapers, see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. And we have in the major daily newspapers today and other happenings, the front page of the Gleaner. Bunting denies accusations in Vaz's visa controversy. Another headline, Karen Cross expelled from PNP. And we now turn to the Jamaica Observer. Similar stories on the front page. Bunting denies alleged involvement in revocation of Vaz's visa. Karen Cross expelled from PNP. And another, Health Ministry signs agreement with 11 private facilities to give COVID vaccination. Those and many other stories in both major daily newspapers today. Coming up next, we'll read for you some of the feedback from our Facebook and WhatsApp question, which is, what are your thoughts about Jamaica's newest registered political party, the UIC? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses on our Facebook or YouTube, Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Tune in this Tuesday, September 28th at 5:30 p.m. for Campus Connection as we take a look at the Prime Minister's Youth Awards with the Minister of State in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Robert Nesta Morgan. And we'll hear from 2 awardees. The nomination deadline has been extended and you get to hear all you need to know. That's Campus Connection, Tuesday, September 28th at 5:30 p.m. right here on the family station, Love 101.
Sit down and listen, I'm nothing.
How does the Jamaican culture influence the church? Or is it that the church influences our culture? Which way should it go? What does the Bible say about how our culture and the church should interact? What do you consider as being a part of your culture? Come to The Rock this Tuesday, September 28th at 10 a.m. with host Pastor Harold C. Blair and guests Bishop Winston Bell and Reverend Paul Pinto as they discuss the church, our culture, and the Bible. That's The Rock this Tuesday, September 28th at 10 a.m. The discussion can be heard live on Love 101 FM radio frequencies, our Facebook and YouTube platforms, and on the app for Love 101 FM, the family station. The Rock, solid, objective, substantial.
Hey, small people, do you love your grandparents? What have your grandparents taught you that you'll never forget? This Wednesday, September 29, we open the phone lines at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. And you get to call in and share some of your memories of things you do with your grandparents. Remember now, this Wednesday, September 29 at 4 p.m. in the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. It's all about your grandmother and your grandfather. What's that link you love and adore? Share it right here on Love 101, the family station.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokely Marshall. We are now in the second watch. And just recently, there was a change to the numbers of persons who can attend church. It is now 50 persons, up from 20. So although Sundays have been dubbed no movement days, additional persons can go to and from church, including the clergy, including any support staff to cause the broadcasting of the relevant services. And of course, a few persons can attend church who may not be taking part in any official capacity in the conducting of the service. So we have online this morning to look at this change, Reverend Dr. Agelon Ferdinand. He is a pastor of the Pepin New Testament Church of God, and he's also a lecturer. We also have online Sister Bernice Henry, and she's a member of the Waltham Park New Testament Church of God, and she's a couple of scores, and the listeners can probably try to now guess how many scores she is. I probably will leave her to say that. Good morning. Good morning, Reverend Dr. Ferdinand, and good morning, Sister Henry. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Sister Henry, you're well?
Yes, man, the Lord wake me up.
I will let you tell the listeners how many scores you are in terms of your age. I'll let you tell them your age.
Okay. I am not
if you
ashamed.
feel like if you feel like telling them.
Yeah. Tell them now.
And go ahead, ma'am.
Yeah, man. The 9th of June gone. I was
Yes.
8 years old.
The 9th of June gone, you turned 80.
Yes.
And you're going for another 20 years, Sister Henry.
It's the Lord's will.
I hope you do. And Reverend Dr. Ferdinand, sir, I will take the liberty of telling the listeners you're my brethren. How you do, sir?
Good morning, Mr. Stokely. I'm doing well, man. Good to be here with you and to be here with Bernice Henry as well, my sister from the Waltham Park Church. It's a joy to share with you today.
Okay, great having you both. I'm going to start with you, Reverend Dr. Ferdinand. You know, initially when they indicated that Sundays would be the only no movement day and only 20 persons would be allowed to attend church, which in a nutshell really meant the support staff for the broadcasting of the services. I I don't know. I don't know if I went through a period of shock.
Yeah.
However, some of that shock has been relieved. I see it's now up to 50 persons. Still not ideal, but a little bit of an improvement. Can you tell us what that change has meant for a pastor like yourself who has to lead a congregation? What does it mean for your congregation? And how are you navigating all of these changes? This, you know, to the various numbers of persons who can attend, etc. How are you navigating all of that?
Yeah, well, first let me say I am very delighted. I'm really delighted that we are able to accommodate 50 members, including participants in the services at church. This is very, very good. I'm pleased about that. And I think going forward, I would like to see it remain and, if possible, increase as we improve in our COVID numbers nationally. Well, yes, last Sunday would have been the first Sunday where 50 persons could return to church. We generally adhere to all the required stipulations in terms of physical distancing within our congregation, sanitization of all persons coming, wearing of masks of all persons coming, sanitization of microphones where we may need to share microphones. We've been trying to encourage as many persons as possible, allowable within that number, to be present. We are able, in terms of our local church in the Papine area, we are able to seat 50 persons, maintaining the safety requirements in terms of distance. And we're looking forward to seeing this improve, Mr. Marshall. Can I tell you, I'm happy about this.
Interesting. Let's bring in Sister Henry. Sister Henry?
Yes, sir.
I know we're almost upon a break. We're going to go to a break at 7:45. But in the 2 minutes we have between now and the break, or a minute and something, you went to church on Sunday just gone. Tell us about that experience very briefly, Sister Henry.
Well, it was as I told you that that Sunday was supposed to would be our senior citizen Sunday. That Sunday gone would be a special Sunday for all senior citizens. But because of what happened now, there wasn't a gathering. As I told you that it was the church was almost empty. It was just I got a letter that I should come and the president, as I told you about the senior citizen, the president from our church, she was there, and there's some young people who were doing it wasn't a regular gathering.
Yes. And it wasn't many people inside the church building either. And it's a large building. Yes, I know Waltham Park is a large church.
Yeah, as I said, it was the church. I would just put it this way: the church had opened up for the congregation.
I see. And you had to get a letter to go to church, yes?
Yes, I got an invitation. They brought some from me, but it was all about this. It was about the whole service was about the seniors.
I see. We're upon a break. We are now upon a break, Sister Henry and Reverend Ferdinand. We're going to take a quick break and come right back on the Morning Watch. Listeners, stay with us.
This is Love 101, the family station. It's 7:45.
Stay informed and keep up to date with all the happenings locally, regionally, and internationally. Follow My Jamaica Today on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Also check us out at JamaicaToday.com as we bring you all the information you need wherever you are, with fearless and factual reporting on politics, world news, business, entertainment, sports, and lifestyle. It's My Jamaica Today, Jamaica's first digital media house, only 3 clicks away.
The Best Dressed Chicken Summer Winnings promotion is gearing up for back to school with 60 weekly prizes this month, $10,000 book vouchers, $30,000 tuition vouchers, plus $10,000 cash prizes and more, plus the grand prize of $1 million cash. So buy your specially marked The Best Dressed Chicken, Reggae Jammin', and Hamilton products today for your chance to hot up the summer winnings with The Best Dressed Chicken. Promotion ends October 31, 2018. Visit bestdress.mobi for more info.
Hey, small people, do you love your grandparents? What have your grandparents taught you that you'll never forget? This Wednesday, September 29, we open the phone lines at 4 p.m. inside the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. And you'll get to call in and share some of your memories of things you do with your grandparents. Remember now, this Wednesday, September 29 at 4 p.m. in the Small People Show with Auntie Colleen. It's all about your grandmother and your grandfather. What's that link you love and adore? Share it right here on Love 101, the family station.
So, you've been told you can't really move and you're wondering what to do with all this stay-at-home time. Stop waiting and start creating with Berger Paint. That's right, get 15% off all Berger paints so you can use that stay-at-home time to stay creative and make your home a colorful, wonderful, feel almost new kind of home. Get your hands on Berger and get your 50% off today, because with Berger, creativity begins at home. Berger, for lasting beauty and protection.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. Thanks for staying with us. We are in the second watch, and the topic is gatherings at church services now increased to 50. And our guest for this segment, Reverend Dr. Ajelon Ferdinand, and he is the pastor of the Papine New Testament Church of God, and he's also a lecturer. And we also have Sister Bernice Henry. She's a member of the Waltham Park New Testament Church of God, and she announced her age. She indicated that she turned 80 in June just gone. Welcome back, Dr. Ferdinand, and of course, Sister Henry. Now, Dr. Ferdinand, sir, do you think that going forward, assuming that you do a stellar job in maintaining the various rules in terms of COVID restrictions, that you could even have more than 50 persons safely within the walls of the building? Do you think that that is possible, sir?
Yes, once the church, the capacity of the church could safely seat persons within the seating distance required by the government, which is 6 feet between individuals, and the church can, sanitize and follow all the regulations for public gathering inside of the building. I look forward to the day when the church can be able to host many more, as it is able to do, based on its size and its ability to maintain the regulations. Yes, I do. I am praying. My prayer, Mr. Marshall, is that we do not go back to any number less than 50 at this time and going forward.
Okay. Do you have space maybe in the church yard, in the outer property, the curtilage of the building, that would permit maybe like maybe with a covering of some sort, like maybe a canopy or a tent, to increase the numbers even beyond 50 if the church building itself can't hold more than 50 persons?
Well, I'm not clear what are the stipulations regarding having more than 50 on the compound. The church
No. I'm speaking of in the future. Suppose the government were to in the future increase the number to 100. I'm just putting a figure out there.
Yeah,
but
well,
your church building can only hold 50.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible now on a Sunday morning that 100 persons can access worship experiences at the church. Because you could have, within the time limit provided by the government, you are able to have more than one services. You can do that.
Interesting point. Yes.
Where you can meet for an hour and a half in the morning. You give the break, you sanitize, you prepare the sanctuary, and later in the day you can also meet another set of believers to come. So in that way, it is possible for the church to host more than 50. That's the way in which my facility is able to accommodate persons at this time.
I see. And Sister Henry.
Yes, sir.
You had been sharing with me before the program that at Waltham Park New Testament Church of God, there was a time under the COVID restrictions where you had more than one service. And that was done in an effort to keep the numbers reasonable and in line with the COVID restrictions, but at least have more persons able to attend church. You had indicated you had up to 3 services at one point at Waltham Park?
Yes, before this closing down, before this latest closing down, we had 3 services.
3 services.
6, I don't know if it's 6 or 6:30. One at 8 and one at 10, one at 8 something and one at 10. I started to go out back to the 8. The 8 one. And it was working. And because the church is very big, and then we have appropriate sanitizing. We have a machine which sanitize, and the chairs are all taped out, and it would work. It was working. It was working.
And if I could add Sister Henry as well as Dr. Ferdinand, the New Testament Church of God in Jamaica has good leadership.
Yes,
and they would ensure that these things are done.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. Everything is okay. So right now down at 65, if you walk into the church, you see the tags on the chair. So you know the one that you see tag, that they are marked. So 2 persons don't join up beside each other.
Yes, some of the chairs they can't sit on those and they can sit on others. Yes, I understand.
Right.
Yes.
Everything's in order.
I see. Dr. Ferdinand, do you see going forward the hope that one day, I use the word normal guardedly, sir. Do you have the hope that one day things can return to normal in such a way where you can go back to having regular services, even if you want to continue streaming services or continue having them online, as the case may be? But are you in a nutshell seeing if you can urge the government or nudge the government in that direction, in the sense that, listen, you are following the guidelines, following the protocols, and maybe even one day there'll be no more pandemic and you can return to normal. What's your sort of vision, or your sort of playing wait and see to see what happens with the country and the globe as a whole? Tell us what's going through your mind as a leadership of the New Testament Church.
Okay, let me say it this way. You know, I watch the Premier League football, and I'm seeing hundreds of thousands of people packed into football stadiums enjoying games in Europe. And I've also seen instances right here in the Caribbean, in St. Kitts, for instance, where a number of persons were able to fit into a cricket stadium to enjoy a game of the Caribbean Premier League cricket matches. Now, what makes the difference between those countries and Jamaica is the level of vaccination that are in those societies. There is such a wide cross-section of persons who are vaccinated, which makes it possible for persons to be able to gather in larger numbers. My hope is that while the numbers of new cases decrease and more individuals take on to the vaccine, and we have a stronger herd immunity, as it is said, then surely I will make the case to the government, if the opportunity is given me to do so, for more and more persons to be able to gather in the church for Sunday worship. As it feels right now, Mr. Marshall, it feels like we are in exile. We are in exile from the place of worship, from the house of God, as if we are by the rivers of Babylon singing a strange song, longing to go back to our house of worship and to carry on our lives. I do hold out the hope that as the numbers fall and more individuals subscribe to vaccination and we have greater herd immunity, that yes, the churches can have more and more people engaging in worship of God.
And in relation to any members of the congregation who, for whatever reason, may decline vaccination, what is your word to them?
Well, I listen to what the health professionals say. I've spoken to a number of persons. I know a number of persons who have not yet taken the vaccine. They are not anti-vaxxers as we typically understand that concept, but they are non-vaxxers. That's not a concept that is out there. That's my description for it. And by non-vaxxers, I mean they prefer not to take the vaccine personally, but would encourage others who are open to do so to do so. I would encourage as many persons as possible to go and get the vaccine and allow yourself to be protected from, as the doctors would describe it, severe effects of the COVID-19 upon your life. And that will allow you to at least be around to know whether you've made the right decision or not, and to have the opportunity of return to the church for public worship and for fellowship with other believers. So yes, I'll encourage
Interesting you say that, because that takes us almost into another conversation, because what we're now finding out is the issue of variants. And I did see some information coming out from the CDC, and none other than Dr. Rochelle Walensky herself, the CDC director, which indicated that boosters may be required, well, at least one booster she spoke about, because vaccines wane after 6 to 8 months. The current, the existing vaccines that were issued to persons or given to persons have a life of about 6 to 8 months. Quite interesting. So you might have to rely on at least that one booster she mentioned. And I don't want to put words into her mouth, so I'll stop at where she stopped. But she made a very interesting point about 6 to 8 months. So let us see if boosters will become the way of life in the future if you go down the vaccination road. Sister Henry, before we wrap today, madam, do you have any thing you'd like to leave with us as a member of a congregation? You went back to church on Sunday after the break. Any final word from you? And then we're going to ask Reverend Ferdinand for a final word as well. Any final word you want to leave with us, Sister Henry?
Yes, I just want to say, that we are missing each other, Especially us as seniors. You know, we have our senior club down there, and we meet, and and many persons are lonely, especially seniors. You know, and we look forward to get back together.
I
As a
see.
family.
Understood. Understood. Dr. Ferdinand, a final word in a second or two, sir.
Well, I'll just say, as the prophet Jeremiah said to the people during their time of exile, that they should seek the welfare of the city, seek the welfare of where we are at the moment, the country Jamaica, and hope that it will rebound and we are able to gather again. But we must not pretend it's where we want to be. We do not like this situation. We must not forget the church, and we must not decide to stay in this situation, but at the same time, settle down, seek the welfare of the city, and pray to God that things make a positive change.
I have to leave it there this morning, only because we are totally out of time. I want to thank you, Dr. Ferdinand, Sister Henry. Thank you for your time and for your contributions and for your thoughts. Thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. Visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page and Love 101 FM programs. Listen to the Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected to us, the family station, Love 101 FM, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been the Morning Watch. Thanks to our producer, Kathy Gale, and our guests. I am Stokely Marshall, handing it back to Love in the Morning with Shabani.
Brought to you by Home and Things, your construction finishes superstore. It is 8:01 and it's time for the program of Forward in Faith, brought to you by the Port Moody Testament Church of God.